Welcome to the Your Desired Success Foundation Mastermind, all around paying it forward with the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have done unto you. Now, Napoleon Hill here, the world famous author of the world-renowned book of Success, Think and Grow Rich, when talking about the power of the mastermind, said it is the principle through which you may borrow and use the education, the experience, the influence, and perhaps the capital of other people in carrying out your own plans in life. It is the principle through which you can accomplish in 1 year more than you could accomplish without it in a lifetime if you depended entirely on your own efforts for success. So we've all got our numbers, and if you'd like to start us off, Carly.
Yes. The purpose of the mastermind is to share our value and connect with like-minded people in order to create wealth in all areas of our lives.
We are here to inspire and challenge. When we are here.
Oh, hang on. Somebody's trying to update. Sorry.
We're here to inspire and challenge each other and reach and exceed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during meetings.
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during meetings.
We're real and authentic. There's a no bullshit zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and the high forces. One mind, one soul, one love. Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that and holding that space. It's absolutely fantastic. So, powerful topic as always to be sharing here, talking about walking through the storm. So, the reason why that came up was because I had a call last night, which a friend of mine reached out to me and said, hey, I'm going through something at the moment and I need a bit of support. I need a bit of help. And I don't know what to do. I don't expect you to help me straight away. I know you're busy, which I did a post around being busy and being productive. I know you're busy, but when you've got time, can we have a chat? So I jumped on the call with this person and it was extremely empowering. And the reason why it was extremely empowering in particular was because this person had said that they were ready to quit on their journey as to what they were doing because they felt like they were wasting time. They weren't getting ahead. They weren't succeeding to the level that they wanted to. And they were also concerned about their age. And when's this going to change for me? You know, I'm running out of time. And it really made me think about what's going on in my own life, the way that I viewed a lot of things, the way that I choose to show up. And I realized that when I was having a conversation with this person, that many of us choose to quit on ourselves. We're not quitting on the process. We think we are, but we're actually quitting on ourselves. So we had a conversation around that. This person had done multiple courses and challenged. I'm doing my best to be conscious of not giving away the person or the sex. So this person was done multiple courses, already has a good job, earning good money, but just not happy, not fulfilling what this person's here to do in the purpose and fulfillment. So what came up for me was the topic today was walking through the storm. And I'd really like to hear from each of you in regards to times when you've been walking through the storm and you feel or you know that something was serving you, but you chose to change it and say, do you know what? It's too hard. This isn't where I'm going to be. And Bob Proctor talks about the terror barrier. So your conscious mind knows where you want to go, but your subconscious is so conditioned that it's just telling you, no, 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 no. And when we had this conversation, there was so many things that I was able to revert back and say, you chose to reach out to me shows your strength. And you don't think you're strong. Your choice to reach out to me shows your strength. It's irrelevant of what happened after that, whether I said I'm too busy or I'm available. But in doing so, because we were connected and because of the way that I'm choosing to show up, I opened the door that gave you the confidence to reach out to me and let me know, where normally this person would have actually not said anything and kind of Houdini'd out of the building and out of the community, but chose to show up. And I said, that in itself is a massive growth. And that in itself is self-love and self-worth. Now, you have no control over what, in this example, what I was going to do. But because my mission in life, what I'm here to do, is to add value and service into other people's lives to help them move forward, you then gave me the opportunity to be of service to you. And in doing so, you're helping me fulfill what I'm here to fulfill. So you showed in that example incredible power, or as I was talking to this person on the phone, you showed incredible power and strength within yourself to step up. And in doing so, you helped me step up. And the call that we've had has helped me become better, and it's helped you realize that you are on the right path and you are going in the direction you need to go. And if you quit right here and now, if you choose to let go, you're going to flow away with the storm and you're going to land somewhere where you don't want to be. And you're going to have to start again and go through all of that, all through the challenges of getting through all of the debris and so on. Whereas where you are right now is confronting you and asking you these questions of, who am I? What am I here to do? What is the value that I provide? You know, even the question that was asked said, well, I don't have a business. I don't have that. And I'm saying, well, yeah, but you're a parent. You're in a relationship. You've got incredible knowledge and skill that you're able to bring into the community and share your experiences and what you've been through that's helped you get to this point right now. We need to hear that to help us understand when we face those challenges, to help us keep moving forward. It's not just about having a business and being clear on the direction, because I can guarantee you, going back to what Tony said earlier on, for those of us who have been in a certain area and know where we are, especially like I used the analogy that I used in the room, and this was not, I used Tony as an example, just to try and help this person. And I said, imagine being Tony. How do you see Tony? She's like, Tony's amazing. And I said, I know Tony's incredible, but look at it this way. Imagine being Tony as a coach who's gone and studied and studied and studied. And I'm just using this as an example, Tony, not saying this is the way you are, but studied and studied and studied and studied in a certain way that in the room there's 4 walls, and it's literally like, this wall is step 1, this is step 2, step 3, step 4, and this is all you need to do to help your clients. All you're ever going to do is those 4 modalities to help the clients, and therefore you're only going to ever have the same clients. You're only going to be able to work through the same challenges, and you are never going to grow because it's the same conversation. I said, so what in this example, Tony is a coach. And if he was to only live in this room of the 4 walls, he would never expand and he would never grow. And where we're all going and where he is right now in this community is to grow and to expand and to realize his truest potential, not to remain in that room with only helping the same people, not expanding himself and just living in a place of comfort. But now Tony has to actually break free of that information on those 4 walls to expand. So he's got to battle through that, whereas you're in a position where you don't know. You have a clean slate. You don't have any walls around you to barrier you in. And that also creates a challenge of, what do I do? Who am I? Where do I go? Which path do I go? So everybody's got the same challenges. In some ways, it's just in a different style or different way. So when we think around the topic of walking through the storm, when was the last time you walked through the storm? What was it for you that's coming up with this example of when you were ready to quit, or you realized that, hey, this isn't serving me, but if I walk away from it, it isn't serving me right now. I'm not getting the messages that I need, but if I walk away, I know I'm going to be going backwards and need to push through this. Has this made sense to how I've set it up? Kind of. Okay.
Well, what you just said made it that last sentence made it a little clearer for me. My initial reaction was, when I walk through a storm, I hold my head up high and I'm not afraid of the dark. I don't know where that reference was coming from, your Liverpool song. Anyway. But I've got a story that might kind of fit that bill. And that's really when I was, actually first I'll tell you something else. It was a mate of mine were at university, and they played a trick on one of the guys there where he passed out drunk one night in his dormitory. Well, they had their own little sort of private room. I think they shared with one other guy. And what they did, being students, is they physically lifted his bed with him on it and carried him out into the field, the open paddock outside the university building. And they took all of his furniture from his bedroom and took it outside and put it all around him exactly as it was in his bedroom, so that when he woke up, he was in his room and everything that was familiar was around him, except he was in the middle of a bloody open field. So you can imagine what that would have felt like. So that's where my mind went when you first were talking about that. The walls are all taken away from you, and you suddenly open up, because there's the familiarity around you of these things that you're used to, but there's also a whole new ball game out there that's confusing and unknown and has unlimited potential in a sense. So I thought that was an interesting analogy. But the story I was going to say was going back to the days when my backpacker business was coming to an end after 14 years. And we'd had the great financial depression of 09-10. So where my business had been halved overnight, effectively, the people were just not traveling because there was no money around. There was economic chaos. The stock markets crashed. People were not wanting to give up their jobs to go traveling and backpacking. And I was fighting this rearguard action where I was suddenly behind on my mortgages, behind on my rent. I had 3 properties I was paying mortgages on, and the bank started closing in on me. I mean, literally, the foreclosing process began, where they start sending you warnings, and then you're getting fines and penalties and all the rest of it. And then I got the letter, that was if you don't make a payment or bring your mortgages back into line within the next week, we'll require you to hand the keys over to just whoever, somebody faceless, unknown, unless you contact us to make arrangements. And I was frantically trying to get hold of them to try and negotiate something, and couldn't get hold of anyone. And turned out they were moving office that week, so they weren't returning anyone's calls. So my life was hanging by a thread of what I was going to do and where I was going to live next week, and I couldn't get hold of anyone to discuss it. So finally, in desperation, I found some obscure phone number. This was GE Mortgages. And I finally found somebody I could get through and actually talk to a real person. And then I was able to negotiate an extension. Well, actually, at first they just said, "Oh, they've been moving office, so we can't get. That's why they're not returning any calls. But someone will call you back." So then it was probably another week or 2 before somebody actually rang me back. So that whole time was probably the most stressful period of my life. I was really about to lose everything I'd worked for 14 years if I couldn't pull the rabbit out of the hat, And I'd had downturns before, and I'd always conquered it. I'd always found ways of resolving it, climbing over the wave, And this was one wave that was just way too big. But I still, being optimistic and being a fighter, I still, when I got onto them, I said, "Look, things are really down at the moment, but I'm sure the business will pick back up. And once we get into summer," this was probably about November. So we had December, January, February, normally our absolute top months. We usually be 100% full and turning people away. And I'll be able to bring things back into line. And, by sort of February, things will be looking a lot better. well, we got to January and it was still not even 50% occupancy. It was just flat. The phone wasn't ringing. People weren't coming. So that was probably the biggest storm I ever had to face. And then the real kicker came in. I don't know if you remember this for the people who are in Perth, but we had this hailstone storm from hell. And it was that year. It was about February 2010. And the hailstones came down the size of golf balls and were damaging cars left, right, and center. They were at the Backpackers, where my business was. They literally punched holes through the roof. And it was raining so hard that the games room out the back, where the pool table was and all that, the water was running through and running over the power points. Luckily, all the power went out pretty much straight away, so nobody got electrocuted. It started to pool so much that I had backpackers helping me with buckets, scooping water off the floor. It was practically almost, well, between your knee and your waist. It was somewhere around that sort of above knee height, deep. And I can remember thinking, I looked up to the sky and I was like, bloody hell, okay, I've got the message. Finally, you've been trying to tell me this is time for you to get out of this and move on. I'm like, okay, I hear you. What else do I need? What else can you do to throw this at me and tell me and slap me around the face that this is what I need to do? Change in direction. So my conscious mind had been, I can fight this, I can overcome it. And then this was the sort of the final message from above, if you like, that you've got to face reality here and it's time to come up with a new plan and figure a new way. And it was kind of a liberating moment to actually realize that, okay, decision made. I now am thinking differently. Instead of fighting this thing, it's now, how am I going to navigate my way out of it? And I was able to sell 2 of my 3 properties. I was actually able to sell the business, albeit at a lower price than what it should have gone for, and came out of it still with a cleaning business intact that I just set up, that I still have today, and go in a whole different direction. But it was that real internal battle of not wanting to quit, not wanting to give up, believing I could still win this battle, and then realizing that you've got to actually face this. This is a wave that's just way bigger than you. And those people up there, him, whatever you want to call it, grand design, God, whatever you call it, really hammered me with the message. And I listened.
Powerful share, Tony. That's awesome, mate. Thank you. And that was exactly what the intention was behind the topic, was that of pushing through. And it wasn't, even though there was external factors, you went back inside and just chose to keep moving forward. That's what the topic's about. When we were challenged with that, how did we choose to move forward?
Yeah, and it was how to then reinvent myself, because my whole identity, I'd been doing that for 14 years. So my identity had become connected with the business. You know, it was who I was. And then suddenly I was like, well, actually, it's not who I am. It's just what I was doing. And now it's time for me to do something different. And that's when I went on into the realm of coaching instead. And, you know, learning to be able to pass on all the experiences, all the wins and the losses, the triumphs and the setbacks, and learning from all of that, and then being able to help other people going through stuff.
Who'd like to go next? Great share, Tony. Thank you, buddy.
I could go next, but I haven't got a story. I'm like still in Tony's story, because that was spot on, because we've got to keep moving. And a lot of times our terror barrier, whatever you want to call it, stops us from trusting the unknown past those 4 walls. Like if you called that a smaller box. And when you put the person in the garden or in the yard, like they got to expand while sleeping. Like what a gift. They didn't have to use their mind to expand. They got to organically, naturally expand. Yes, they might have had a little bit of shock when they woke, but the shock was only very short, and that the experience exponentially expanded them. And so it was worth the little bit of shock. And then with Tony, like with your experience where, yes, the universe was trying to tell you, I'm putting holes in your roof and flooding you to get you moving, because up until that 14th year, you were still procrastinating in where you'd been, thinking all your way through the 14 years. Where once you got that extra carrot on top of the stick, like, holy moly, let's really let him know. And then that allowed you to fully surrender, own what you really want for yourself and your family, and take the next step. So sometimes we need that really bad stick, not the carrot. Like the carrot would have been just gentle rain, and then the stick was, let's throw the bloody golf balls down because you're not listening to me. And I want more for you.
Yeah.
I want more for you because you're worth it. And that's what that lady or man, that, I don't know if it's a lady or a man, but whoever that person is that you worked with, Martin, that's what the divine or the universe or her soul wants, or he keeps saying her, so I don't know who it is, wants for them. Like they want them to get outside of the small box they'd put themselves in, go into a bigger box, or it doesn't have to be a box, but expand is what I'm really saying, and receive more than they're worthy, like more than they think they're worthy of, because they're worth limitless desires. We all are, but we've all been brought up in smaller boxes depending on our family dynamics. And then before, I mean, people on their deathbed decide to be happy. So we're all at different ages, stages, and age doesn't matter, because if you get joy on your deathbed, then you've experienced true joy. If you get joy when you're 10, you've experienced true joy from being a receiver and expanded, like creating your life in happiness. We're all worthy.
Wow, awesome share there, Carly. You actually, you took me back to something that I heard from Wayne Dyer when he touched on a poem, and it was around the law of attraction, which is, it isn't kind of what we're touching on, but it really came up for me really strong, and I was like, hey, I need to bring this up, because this poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge said around when you're talking about dreaming and the growth that's taking place through that, and he said, this was his poem, and you're all going to take away whatever you need to take away from this. What if you slept? And what if in your sleep you dreamed? And what if in your dream you went to heaven and there plucked a strange and beautiful flower? And what if when you awoke, you had that flower in your hand? Ah, what then? And it just made me think about, I mean, that was based around the law of attraction and how we can actually bring things from the non-physical into the physical. We can manifest and we can create them. And we could say that it is actually really relevant and powerful to the topic of walking through the storm, because as Tony showed us in particular, then in his example, he went inside and said, I can push through this. I've got to shift. I've got to become better, and I've got to take action myself and think. Everything has to start with a thought. So it just has to. And then the action that we take is based on that thought and the way we're thinking. So when you said what you said, Carly, that poem just jumped out, and I literally started saying it in my head, and I went, I've got to do it justice by finding the bloody poem and not making it up, because it's such a powerful one. So thanks for inspiring me to share that as well. And naturally, Tony. Gentlemen,
One other thing I forgot to mention in my story as well. It really was biblical. I only thought of that when Carly was talking, because I'd actually had that season before that plagues of bloody bed bugs. So it really was like the pestilence, plague of pestilence, and then the floods. I don't know if I'd have stuck there, I'd have probably had the fire next. It was one thing after another.
Stan or Albert, what's coming up for you?
Well, I don't know, but there seems to be many storms. Which one and how do you explain it is difficult. I guess one tough time in my life was when I got divorced. It wasn't so much the end of the relationship that was the hard part. It was the financial burden that came with it. And well, like it wasn't a big fight. Like my ex and I weren't at each other's throat and trying to be vindictive to each other or anything, but she was a little bit on the greedy side, I guess, and like, well, the house I live in is a log home. You can see behind me there's log walls, and it's one I built myself, and it's on a piece of property I acquired from my father, which is actually my great-grandfather's homestead when he came to this country, and I didn't want to leave it, have it go out of the family, and I got into a situation where I had to refinance in a bad way. Like I had to come up with actually almost more than the value of the house to be able to keep it. And at the time, we have 4 kids. They were all older. They weren't little, but they were all living with me at the time. So it wasn't just me that would be homeless. It was the whole works. So I had to come up with a plan and figure out my way to get it out of it and keep on going. And like they say, it's only money. You can always make more. But it made me think of something I read on the internet quite a while ago, and it comes up every now and then. It's where the devil's whispered in my ear, "You're not strong enough to withstand the storm." And I turned back and said to him, "I am the storm."
Excellent.
So that's the way you got to be. Just go with it.
Beautiful share that, mate. I actually got all goosebumps and emotional then when you said that, because I knew what was coming, and it's something that's resonated with me deeply for a number of years now. That was awesome, mate. And with that, Stan, would you say that in that experience, in that what you were going through, especially with the emotional connection because of it being in the family through the generations, did you feel like your back was against the wall there and you had no other option but to move forward?
Well, yeah, I would say so. It's, when you're pushed into a corner, you got to fight your way out.
Yeah. And did you realize your strength through that?
Yeah, I guess I would have to say I did. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. And I know that my mum and dad got divorced late in life, and my dad took it bitterly because my dad always had a focus on money, and there was never enough, and we were always struggled. So when my mum and dad got divorced, and he had to remortgage the house as he was just about to pay the mortgage off and looking at retiring, it was a very bitter time to be in that energy, in that space, especially when my dad was. But I remember how hard he thought it was. And now today, he's 66, he's retired. And I was talking to him on the phone, he said, don't worry about money. You know, I'm happy doing my thing, and completely different person to when I was living back in England with him, and him, because he took the divorce very, very hard. And I stood kind of, I didn't realize how much of an influence I was having on him by staying there until the day that I emigrated to Australia, and he gave me a card and said, read it when you get to Australia. And I read it, and it just said about his gratitude towards me for being there and supporting him through it, which I didn't realize how much of an impact I had. So yeah, just goes to show you that we say time heals the soul and so on, but really, you know, I'm not saying that it doesn't, but it's ourselves. I think we often look externally to try and justify things happening, but really it's ourselves that are strong enough to help us move forward. So yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Albert, and bringing that up. Stanley.
I better make it good, seeing Carly's been psychic and congratulated me on a journey that I haven't spoke about yet. I think she meant Albert. So I suppose I don't want to start with this one. So we've had a storm in our family. My wife had mental health issues, like starting like 4 years ago. So we've had multiple trips to the mental health wards. Yeah, like into the stage where it's like, not sure you want to get a job because things don't work for the family and the kids so well. But then you're kind of left in your own other storms. Probably 2 years ago, thought it'd be good to add to the storm and start coaching. And I kind of took the extra money that I would normally have, and when you're not working and you only have casual jobs, I took the extra money and thought, let's do a coaching course. And you see how far you can go on the small amount of money you can kind of make. And then along with that, my wife started working kind of last year, but it's still not enough. Sometimes she goes to work and then it's a 2-day process for recovery, where she's, you know, on the couch and, you know, she's slept all day, and, you know, you need to be home so you can pick up the boys from school and that sort of stuff. So then I thought, well, if she's going back to work, I'll try and get some other work to kind of cover the rest of it. And then suddenly find out that you're kind of unemployable because you're too old, and people are like, get a job at Coles or Kmart or Big W, and you suddenly realize you don't have the experience and they don't want to take you, and you end up with, you know, hundreds of let me apply for a job that I can't get, and you're in a space where you're just going, I don't know if I want a job now. So you kind of add storms on storms on storms sort of thing, and you kind of get into was talking with a coach the other day, and we were talking about stuff, and she said, I didn't even think about it. She goes, what's your family like? And then I realized they're farmers and workers, and what they did was just adapt to whatever they had. Like my granddad has a whole shed full of stuff in case he needs that one screw. But yeah, like didn't need any money, but just kept on going and had like a bunch of resourcefulness. So then you kind of like, oh yeah, let's add storms on storms on storms because we're just resourceful. So that's about it, really.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing and being vulnerable with regards to that stuff. Stan, I mean, you know, you're aware of my situation in regards to going through the depression and stuff. So it's I've not been on the outside of it to experience being around somebody who's going through those challenges, but I have been on the inside, and it's I can only I mean, even for like my partner at the time, who just said to me, you know, I thought you'd fallen out of love with me. And I was like, I never fell out of love with you. I fell out of love with myself. And therefore I wasn't able to show you that I loved you because I didn't have anything inside of me. And that right there is, for someone who's never been through it, can't fathom it. And we often, I found we often, I was speaking at an event a couple of years ago, and there was a guy there who, his wife was speaking, and she was talking around health, and I was talking about my experience and my journey. And she said, I love my husband, but he's challenged with regards to not loving himself. So he was open enough to share, and he said, I love other people, and I help other people, and I tell them that I love them. I said, do you genuinely mean it? Do you genuinely, when you speak to people and you tell your wife that you love her, when you tell your family or people you meet that you love them, can you honestly stand there and say you genuinely mean it? And he's like, absolutely, I do. Well, then that's all you've got inside of you. So you do love yourself, because you can't love somebody else if you don't love yourself. Like, you just can't. So, like, you can't show it. You can't give them that energy, because it has to be within. So there's the whole focus and the intention behind today's call was to help us see that we often flippantly overlook what's happened in our life, or maybe what's going on in our life, and we don't take the time to realize just how powerful we truly are. Like the incredible energy that we have to help us keep moving forward. And none of us have got it all together. I was listening to a podcast where Russell Brand was interviewing Tony Robbins, and Russell Brand's in total awe. And he said at the beginning of his interview, I thought I was going to have all these questions for you to extract information from you, but all I'm thinking about doing now is telling you all my problems and seeing if you can fix me. You know, and I mean, Russell Brand, if you're not listening to his podcast, it's incredible. He's absolutely brilliant, Russell Brand. And I sometimes struggle with Russell Brand because he uses big words. And I'm not like that good intellectually with big words. But he is so good in the way that he extracts information. And the call was so powerful in regards to, Tony Robbins said, I do not have my SHIT together. I do not have it together. But people think I do. And the reason why they think I do is because I show up and do the best that I can to the best of my ability. And every single morning, and he said, in my properties around the world, I have this, those of you who are familiar, I know Tony, you're very familiar with Tony Robbins, is he has this hole in the ground where he jumps into this like water chamber at a certain temperature that's really good for his health benefits. And he said, he does not want to get in it every day. Even though he knows it's good for his body and it's good for his mental health and so on, he doesn't want to get into it. But he knows that if he says to himself, okay, I won't get in it today, defeat's taken place. And then where is it going to affect him in other areas of his life? And it's the little things that we can take as the keys to opening the doors to the further growth, to the new rooms, to the new experience, to the new relationships. That's the power. So I'd really encourage you to have a look at other areas of your life and reflect on this call to see your true power, to see what you've already created to this point, and to know that if you've got through those storms, whether they be tornadoes or whether they be little storms that pass, instantly. Understand that all the way through it, you've gained and you've become more than you were before then. Therefore, you're ready for the next step. I don't know if anybody's got anything else they'd like to add around that. Go for it, Tony.
Two things, really. The first thing I was thinking that I thought of when you, as you were speaking there, was, have you ever had the experience, and I know I felt this when I was going through that tough time I described to you earlier, is that you start thinking, what else can go wrong? Not a great question. Think about that. Because what are you attracting? More shit. There's more stuff that's going to go wrong. And it's like, have you ever noticed how you get that kind of layering? It's not just one thing that goes wrong. It's two or three. And then you're thinking, I should go and buy a lotto ticket. Surely no one else can have this much bad luck. It's got to turn soon. You're saying all the wrong stuff to yourself. You're attracting more of it. You're piling it on higher and deeper. Yeah, PhD. And so the second thing I was going to pick up on there as well is that when it all seems dark and you are going through a storm and you think, you know, that things are at their worst, a great sort of philosophy to adopt is if you can find the time and the space and the resource in yourself to get in touch with your heart and your soul, is to ask yourself, what's the lesson here? What am I supposed to learn from this? Because in every apparent setback, and maybe this is a bit of the spiritual stuff that I've been on this journey this year, is that you start to realize that you don't get handed anything you can't deal with. You know, the universe has got your back. It's just that you don't know what the lesson is yet. And maybe there's something, it's not going according to your plan, but maybe the universe has got a better and a bigger plan for you, or a different plan for you than what you had in mind. So what is the lesson I'm supposed to extract from this seemingly awful situation? And something that I'm actually working on in a book that I'm writing at the moment is, you know, the moment when you think, this is the pits, I'm at rock bottom here, it's all gone wrong. What if that's just a label you're putting on it? And in a few years' time, you look back at that situation, and I know we've all had those situations in our life where you look back and you actually go, wow, thank goodness that happened. Because if that hadn't happened, it would have opened the door for all these other things to happen. So, you know, a great example, I resonated totally with Albert. You know, I've been through 2 divorces. And at the point you come through a divorce, no one goes into a marriage thinking, I'm going to completely screw this up. You know, I can't wait to mess this up. You go in thinking, this is the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. So when you come out the other side and you're like, what the hell went wrong there? What happened? You know, and it's, a lot of people find it's very easy to blame the other person. Start with yourself, take responsibility. What was my involvement in that? Where could I have been a better person? Where could I have been a better partner? How could I have gone? And where do I go from here? And what's the future got in store for me? So every setback, and it's in the Napoleon Hill's teachings, every adversity carries with it the seed of an even greater or equivalent or greater benefit. There is something there for you, but sometimes I admit you have to dig deeper than others. You've got to look really hard, and hopefully you've got good friends or people around you that can help you find those answers. But there is always something that you learn from this, that you grow from and you take with you on the next part of your journey. That's my 2 bobs worth.
Awesome, that, Tony. Yeah, powerful. And I remember being at an event. I call this lady my spiritual teacher, my spiritual mentor, Dee Littlewood, because she really helped me shift through a lot of my thoughts that were going on. And I remember her coming up to me and saying, hey, I've got a 4.5-day retreat I'm doing, and you're coming on that retreat. And I went, no, I'm not. And it was my ego going, I don't need to be sat around in a room with a group of women going, ooh, all my problems are going to go away. That was literally what was going on in my head. And she said, I've already booked your room. I've already got your spot. Your name's already on it. You're coming. And I'm like, no, I'm not. You may as well take me off and give it to somebody who needs it. She's like, you are coming. Anyway, I kind of felt like she had got hold of my ear and she was dragging me there. And And one of the things that she said, and there was many shifts that had, in fact, that 4.5 days changed pretty much everything for me from an angle of opening my heart. And once I opened my heart, literally so much changed for me. And I got introduced then to Wayne Dyer's teachings and Abraham Hicks and so on. And it just started to I got exactly what I needed to help me move forward. And one of the things she had said was, you don't get what you want, you get what you need. And that's the universe giving you what you need. And I've always supported her. She's from Ireland, but she lived in Perth for many years, and then she moved to Queensland, and she came back to Perth to do an event. And whenever she comes back into Perth, I always go, even though it might be the free event and it's the same thing, I always go, one, because I know I'm going to receive some level of value from her, and it might be a new golden nugget, something I didn't pick up on last time. But two, to support her because I value her and I appreciate her. I'm very grateful for her. And I know that when I say I'm going to it, it's possibly and highly likely going to help somebody else see that and go, if Martin's going, I need to go. Right? It's not from a place of ego. It's from a place of, hey, I'm going to go because Martin's going. So in the room was somebody that Tony and I know very well. And Dee said exactly the same thing. You don't get what you want, you get what you need. And this person was going through a bit of a challenging time and just went, bleh, and let it all out and said, what a load of rubbish. And she said, let me give you an example. If you get in your car and you're driving down the freeway, and all of a sudden somebody comes over and they're flying through the traffic and they come over and they come across and they hit you, it's your fault. And he's like, no, it's not. They hit me. And he said, you have to take ownership for everything that happens in your life because some way, shape or form, you created that. And he would not have a bar of it, this person. And she said, until you're willing to accept that everything is happening in a divine way to help you, you might need to slow down. That accident could have happened because further ahead, there was about to be one that would kill you. Or you would have caused an accident if we carried on. Or maybe you needed to slow down to be appreciative of something, whatever it would be. And I'm sat there and I'm getting the message. I'm now hearing the message loud and clear. And this person's arguing and arguing and arguing. She said, look, I don't make up the laws, but the universal laws govern everything. And I tell you right now, when you choose to accept you are getting what you need, you will see the beauty, but you will probably only see the beauty based on the way you're behaving later on in life, because it'll take you that long to learn the lesson. And you'll look back and go, why did I waste so much time fighting the lesson when it was right there for me to receive, to move forward? Ali?
Yeah, because in the lesson, depending on how long you take to get the lesson, it becomes the storm. Depending on the kind of storm, how long you take to get the lesson, major storm, holes in your ceiling, fire, flood, depending on how far you want to take your lesson that you haven't learnt yet.
Beautiful and powerful. So I'm going to wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. And the simple one of the
sorry, can I just say one quick thing?
Yeah.
From the call, I was listening to the Summit Up that Russ and Walter and Leslie were on, and one of them said, I can't remember which one it was now, I think it was Russ actually, that you are successful when you get in touch with your spiritual self. And that's just what we've been talking about there. This whole storm thing, you get the lesson, you get the realization, you grow from it when you get in touch with the spiritual thing, which is what the person you were describing in Dee's event was not getting, was refusing to connect with that spiritual side. Therefore, it was very logical and fact driven, and that doesn't make sense. So how could them hitting me be my fault? No, it is when you get the spiritual connection, which he didn't get. Just wanted to add that. Sorry, carry on.
Beautiful, Tony. Thanks for sharing that one. I just made a note of that one. That was my bonus of the takeaway. So I got 3 in, and I added that one to finish it off. So fantastic. So remember, touching on that, share your 3 big takeaways in the group. It's always great to read over what you each received, because we all receive different things. And a really good example of this is, at the moment, we're going through the law of compensation, and Beth and I read it together to ourselves, and we highlight areas and so on, and then I put those into the document to review, and we just get completely different things, and yet we're reading from the same chapter next to each other. So it's so cool to see what each person receives from it. And the guys have started mowing the lawn, so I better go, because it's going to get pretty loud around here. Well, thanks so much for your time. Go and enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys.